Hello everyone, welcome to this session on blockchain for business applications. This will be on a fundamental level, and I'm very excited to discuss this concept with you all. And you should be knowing that this is all very exciting times when it comes to new technologies coming into picture, and a lot of things happening in terms of evolving of technology. So, blockchain is one such thing, and there is a lot of use cases around, interesting use cases that are being now in production and being adapted by huge organizations, which we will be discussing, and we will be also understanding the concepts behind that, why this is so unique when it comes to a technology or an approach per se, and how this means a lot of advantage for a business in terms of efficiency and profitability and all that. To begin with, this is what an article from Harvard Business Review says: the technology most likely to change the next decade of business is not social web, big data, cloud, robotics, or even artificial intelligence. It's blockchain. This is what a caption from Harvard Business Review says. However, don't be worried. Blockchain actually has such a nature of being coexisting among many other technologies as well, where you will be able to have data analytics capability, where you will be able to fetch data from blockchain, see what this means in the business scenario, uh, and draw insights out of that. You can have your own machine learning capabilities and all that. However, the way data is arranged is what's special about blockchain. That's what we're going to discuss now. Now, for this next couple of hours, we will be having some grounding on the fundamentals of blockchain, so that you will be able to go ahead and design or architect or build solutions around blockchain. I will also be sharing what technologies or capabilities you should be having in your computer to start experimenting with building some simple blockchain networks and all that in the end of the session. However, you have to start understanding the fundamentals of that. So that's the main thing. And when you are learning the fundamentals in this course, you will be learning through the use cases. So we will discuss the use case, and as we discuss the use case, you will be learning the fundamentals. So that will be the approach, so that you will be able to relate with the technology. So any technology that you learn, this should be your approach. You should be able to relate yourself with that. You should be able to relate that technology with the world, what that technology means to the world. So that will be the right approach to learn a technology. The same approach we will be following here, and the learning outcomes would be at the end. You will be first understanding the demand for this technology called blockchain. What is that research reports are saying, and what huge organizations, tech giants like IBM, Linux, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Cisco, Oracle, SAP, they are all doing in this space. Okay, and also you will understand the technical concepts like distributed ledger, peer-to-peer network, blocks, immutability, provenance, all this. And you will also be knowing how to identify an opportunity for a blockchain solution in a business scenario. Imagine if you are a consultant or a technical expert, you have a business person before you to discuss an issue that he is having in business, and you are there to give him a solution. How do you identify if blockchain is the right approach to solve the problem? What are all those symptoms you will find there, where you suggest him that yes, you have to go for a blockchain approach here, so that your problem will get solved, right? And also you will understand what are all the platforms that are available where a blockchain solution can be created. So coming to me, I am Manoj, and I have 16 years of professional experience as of now, and I have worked with different industries. To begin with, I work for electronics industry and also manufacturing industry, and also EPC industries. What made me so excited about technology is that what the difference it makes when it comes to customer delight. Customers are always aspiring to receive better service all the time, correct? If you imagine you as a customer, you always want to have better service, and the service level from your supplier should always be better, as the time progresses. The same thing happened in each of the organization that I have worked, and I have seen great products being delivered, and technology was at the core of it to enable the business to deliver great things to the customer. So that's what has excited me. I have been a fan of technology, I must say, and I started coding in 1996 or 95, I remember, when there was no hard disk at all, and I started my coding with basic language, and then COBOL and Pascal, and I have seen this transition of technology so fast in these years, and now we are in cloud era, where you really don't have to have so much of computing power in your computer. All that you have to have is a good internet connection, and you can do all the work in the cloud. So technology is always exciting for me, that's all I can say, and I am always curious to learn what is happening next, and I always go and learn that. I am still hands on with coding, and I work in a Linux machine in my laptop, which is now I'm having. And mainframe is something I started in a very early stage, and that gave me a hands-on experience to what the importance of memory, what is the importance of processor, how we have to use it optimize in an optimized way, and all that. So different aspects. So this is my Facebook page. You can stay connected to discuss more on anything that you wish on technology. Okay, coming to blockchain opportunity in business. This is a Gartner report, and it says that by 2025, $176 billion will be invested for blockchain approach in organizations, which means organizations will look for having a blockchain way of approaching their business problems and solve it by 2025. And by 2030, this is going to go up to $3.1 trillion of investment. So this $3.1 trillion of investment by 2030, or $176 billion by 2025, means the opportunity that is available for us to go and play in that space, to participate and develop solutions, because that many problems are there to solve, and blockchain has that opportunity to solve. Let's see what all those problems it can solve. This is the space of problems the blockchain can solve. As I told you, customers are always hungry for better experience, and they're always greedy, or they always ask for better value for money, and blockchain offers that. And the industries, if you see, are around uh, these spaces, like insurance, internet of things, ticketing, supply chain management, and many other things. So you should be actually feeling excited about the space or the scope of the one second, I think there is some technical glitch here. Let me check that. Yeah, I think we should be able to see the screen now. I apologize for the issues. So let me do a quick recap of things. Yeah, so the course objective is to understand the fundamentals very strongly about why blockchain, why not other technologies, and how this makes a difference against other available technologies that are there. So that is going to give you a strong grounding on your start when it comes to blockchain as an approach. Okay, so my and these are all the things we will be discussing in this course about what the tech giants are actually doing in this space, like Microsoft, Amazon, and other companies, and other aspects of the concepts, technical concepts, and also how to choose a scenario that will be a best fit for a blockchain approach. And this is my profile, and this will have some credentials about me, and along with my Facebook page. Now this is the graph I was actually discussing before. The opportunity for blockchain in the business world is expected to be at $176 billion by 2025, which means so much of money will be invested in coming up with blockchain solutions by 2025, and that is already happening. As we see this year, there is almost a quarter of money is already invested, which is roughly $16 billion is actually invested this year itself, and it is expected to grow more and more as we see more and more adoptions that are happening in businesses. And this is the scope for blockchain in varied industries. You take medical research and development, or digital identity management, or tax automation, or crowdfunding management. In fact, voting. There is one state in United States where voting has been adopted, through the blockchain approach, and there is a lot of credibility that is shown by the government through this approach, where the citizens actually know that their vote is actually registered, and the result they are seeing as the choice of their representative is valid, and it is credible that way. Now coming to IBM, IBM is a key player when it comes to blockchain technology, and they are having their own platform in the cloud, where you can go and use the tools and the platform to develop your blockchain solution. And Linux Foundation, Hyperledger is as a bunch of platforms that are there, where you will have Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Compose, and many other things like that, where you will be able to do different things when it comes to blockchain solution, where you can play the role of a developer, or you can play the role of a system admin, or you can play the role of an architect, where you design the components in a very high level, or many things like that. Okay, Microsoft is also a key player when it comes to the blockchain paradigm, where they are offering a cloud environment for developing blockchain solutions. Amazon Managed Blockchain is another offering from Amazon Web Services, where they offer a bouquet of services where you only have to go and do a plug and play type of a thing to create your blockchain network. Cisco, this is a very interesting case where Cisco found that if blockchain is going to be adopted in a large scale in organizations, then they have to be active, because their networking devices has to support so much of data that is getting flowed, because in blockchain there is going to be a lot of data, because a lot of data means a lot of interesting insights that we can draw from data, and also you will be able to give a better customer experience. That is something we are going to discuss in the coming minutes. Oracle Cloud also has their own blockchain platform to develop, and SAP HANA, which is their reporting tool, also have come up with their own platform where their tool can support a blockchain data flow, and it can draw reports from that. So what this means overall, why should we discuss about Oracle, SAP, Google, Azure, Amazon and all that, is when they feel that this is a very critical thing that is happening in the technology space, it means that their customers are going to adopt that. If their customers are going to adopt that, they have to retain their customers by providing them a blockchain support as well. So when these organizations have realized that this is a big opportunity, this is a message that yes, this is going to be an opportunity for us as well to go and participate in that paradigm. Yeah, now let's start with some fun activity. All right, so now let's keep all this. Now we understood that uh, blockchain is a big huge business opportunity. There is a few $1 trillion opportunity that is available before us, and we can be a participant, active participant in that by learning how to create solutions around that. However, fundamentals are important always. Let's begin to learn the fundamentals with some fun activity. All right, now what you are looking before you is 2011 World Cup final cricket match scorecard. All right, now you may not say this is a full scorecard, correct? This is a snapshot of what happened at the end of the match. This is not necessarily the entire picture of the match, correct? Now if you look at further, you look here, uh, Sachin Tendulkar scored 18 and Gautam Gambhir scored 97, like that. So you have a scorecard. Even now this scorecard is not full unless you see the details of bowlers of from the Sri Lankan side and what the Sri Lankan side batsmen have scored, everything. So the data is not full until it is being shown fully. Okay, now let us have a very wild game to play, a hypothetical imaginary game. Okay, now imagine you are a huge fan of Sachin Tendulkar and you are not happy that Sachin Tendulkar scored only 18 runs in this match. Now you want to go and change a scenario uh, where there is no video available in that scenario. Even in that case, the situation will be hard because uh, purely the information about every batsman is also attached to information about every bowler. So you have to go and change every score of every ball that is being bowled in that match. So this is a huge task. That is why it is an impossible task to go and change the data of this match, because the data is being distributed. Number one, there is many versions of data that is being available outside, and changing one source is not going to make sure that the data is being tampered and people are going to believe that Sachin has scored 97. So every single data has to be changed. So the distributed nature of this scorecard, cricket scorecard, has made it so strong that it cannot be changed. And every ball has its own entry in the scorecard. What we are seeing before is a snapshot of what happened at that point of time at the end of the match. However, the entire match is being recorded. Every ball has a lot of information. Who was the bowler, who was the batsman, the umpire, what was the field placement. Every bit of information about every single ball is stored. That is what makes this cricket score as a data so strong, and we can draw a lot of insights. As a coach, you can go and see how a player's behavior has changed from one over to the other over, or over a period of time in a match. How did the player's performance actually uh, got affected and all that. Okay. Now if you look at this particular picture, okay, now this is a ledger. All right, now a ledger has its own purpose. Why a ledger is so important is because we can always go back and trace and reason out why something has arrived at this particular stage. For example, if you have a ledger for your own personal accounts, you will be able to see how did I save so much money or how did I spend so much money, if you have made a note of every spending or every saving you have done. So a ledger is important to go back and trace and reason out for the current state of a certain system or a situation. So a ledger is very important. Now a blockchain is a distributed ledger. The way a cricket scorecard is being distributed and it is having its own distributed nature, it is also like a ledger, right, where each ball is being recorded and with all the information that is there. So when a ledger is distributed across, the way a cricket scorecard is distributed across all the people live, every ball, as after every ball is bowled, millions of people come to know what has happened in the match, so that it is having a distributed nature and they know every bit of what is happening. It is not like after 10 overs being completed people come to know about it. They know every bit of it as the match is happening. Okay, now what is a block? Now in blockchain, the word block has got its meaning, right? Now a block has a set of data inside. You can relate this with the ball that is being bowled in a match. Okay, a ball being bowled in a match has the information about the bowler, information about the batsman, information about the fielders who are in the field actively, what was the score, and many things. All right, in the same way a block is also like that. A block has a set of transactions that are inside and it has its own hash value. Okay, now a hash value is generated by a function called hashing function. For example, you can try it in Google. Okay, if you type your name and if you use that, there are websites that will give you hash function for your own name itself. That will be like a 64 digit hash function value, and this hash function is unique, which means even if you change a bit of the information that you have hashed initially, the hash function will itself change. Okay, now the reason for having a hash function is the information that is being exchanged in businesses has to be protected and it should be preserved as it is, as the time it is being told to the computer. It should not be changed. It should not be changed based on the wishes of the person or somebody who wants to change the nature of the data, changing the name, changing the address or anything. So it should not be changed. It should be fed as it is, and if it is changed, it should be recorded as a changed value again. Now this is the specialty of blockchain. A block has a hash, and a hash will look something like this. It will be having a 64 digit hash function, and this is generated using a SHA-256 algorithm, and this algorithm generates a hash function out of any set of information that is being stored in the block, and this hash function will be the reference for the next block that is getting created. So this is how, if any person attempts to change the information, the hash function will change, which means that particular block will get delinked from the entire chain, and the person who is actually owning the blockchain will come to know that there is one attempt that is being kind of an attempt that is being made to change the data in the blockchain network. So this is the security for data that a blockchain provides. Now this is, we discussed about block. A block has a hash, and when there is a chain of blocks, that is called a blockchain. Yeah. So if you look at this, now there is one block called, the first block called the Genesis block, the blue block, which is in the first, and that block will of course will not have will not have a previous hash because this is the first block. However, the next block will have the reference towards the previous block. Now the second block has a reference towards the previous block, and you can see the first block is IA4Z, and the next block has a reference to that with IA4Z, and it also has its own hash called 2KOG. This is an example, however the hash function will be much more longer. So this is how it goes. So any attempt, if the information in the second block is attempted to change, the hash function will change, which means the link with the next block will get disconnected, and this will trigger an alert to the person who is actually managing the blockchain. Yeah. Now first, distributed ledger technology. We will go back to the same case of the cricket example, cricket scorecard example we have discussed. Distributed ledger technology is replicated, shared and synchronized. Synchronized means any change that happens in the data is being informed to all the parties that are part of the distributed ledger without being need of a central administrator. This means that the attempt that is being made to change the data in one source doesn't mean that the entire data will get changed. There is always few other copies that are available that can be obtained to verify if this is the actual data. So blockchain provides that particular advantage of having data tamper proof and also distributed nature. Immutable. Immutable is, once data is entered on the blockchain, it cannot be deleted. Edits can be made only by appending new or updated information. With blockchain, you have a permanent record or audit trail of all data that is entered. So any change in the data doesn't mean that we go and change the data in the block. We go and add a new data as an update or something, but the existing data cannot be changed, which means we always have a reference of the previous version of the data. So if in case of verification, we can always say for this purpose the data has been updated to this, and this was the previous data and this is the new data. So that kind of a reference this provides, and this is digital. There is less of human intervention in this. It, while not unique to blockchain, it's important to note that all data, processes and transactions around us progressively become digital. These days the payments or many activities have become digital, which means there is less of human interventions. So in a blockchain world, you will see a lot of sensors and Internet of Things that are coming into picture. Okay. Now let me come to a case of a real-time case. All right. Now imagine you go to a supermarket and you buy a box of oranges, and it says that these are all organic oranges. And how do you trust these are organic oranges? I'm telling this case because you will be able to relate this case with the concepts that we have discussed. Now the box of organic oranges are expensive than the normal oranges that you usually buy. So as a customer, you are actually keen to know if these are actually really from an organic farm. Imagine as a customer, if you scan the QPR code in the box of orange, if the QPR code shows from which farm the organic oranges have come and on what day it was shipped, and who was the transporter and everything, it will be great, right? Hello, hello. No, no, please. Hello. Yeah, it will be great. So for somebody to know what is the nature of the value for which they are paying, blockchain gives a great opportunity. So as a consumer buying set of organic oranges, you will be able to understand from where it has come, and who has produced that, who has transported it, what was the temperature in the truck which was actually carrying the box of oranges. Everything will be told to you through a QPR code once you buy the box of oranges. So that's the value blockchain offers. So how this is being made effective through blockchain is because every bit of information that is being uh, that is to be recorded manually or by a human is being done through in a digital way. First, the person who is actually carrying the box of who is producing the organic oranges, the license of the farm owner, and also the order status or the order that he has uh, from the departmental store, everything is being stored in digital format in the mobile of the farmer, and that is being shared with the transporter, and the GPS location picks up that the oranges are actually picked up from this location, and the sensors that are inside the truck with the air conditioners show or get give the information to the transporter that this is the temperature when the oranges were actually transported to the supermarket from the farm. So all this is actually happening, and every information gets stored in a block. So an attempt by any person in this entire chain of events, right from the oranges being picked up from the farm until reaching the supermarket, any information is all stored in blocks, and those blocks cannot be edited or changed because there is a hash function. Any attempt that is being done, the hash function will change, the trigger will go to the relevant parties, and if because this is in a chain nature, this is the uh, background of this word called blockchain, and this is distributed to the relevant parties across. This is why this is a distributed ledger technology. Okay, so this is the real case where IBM blockchain worked with Walmart to provide them a solution for their customers. So where you buy a box of oranges, once you scan the barcode or the QPR code, you will come to know from which farm it has come from, and also what is actually the chain of events that happened. Okay, and the factor of trust is the main aspect in blockchain technology. Once trust is created, then business happens quite naturally, and there is more business, and there is more customer loyalty. And trust comes with data transparency, where the customer is able to see if the the money that is being paid is for the real value. Yeah. So this is what the advantage of blockchain is. Now the project from IBM Food Trust is IBM Food Trust project, and this project is particularly focused on making blockchain as an approach for businesses that are involved in food industry. Okay. And this is very interesting because they have actually made this as an approach where the solution works from the place where the food is produced up until the customer's hand, where the customer actually has the experience of seeing everything that is happening. And the customer trusts this because the data cannot be tampered. Somebody cannot say that this is an organic orange, but if without even having getting the oranges from an organic form, because of the GPS information that is integrated with the blockchain environment of the supplier in that blockchain network, all this happens in an automated way, and the requirement for an audit or anything like a human intervention is less here. Okay. Now coming to IBM Food Trust, IBM's projects as such, if you look at, they have not just IBM Food Trust as one project using the blockchain network. They also have other areas where they have used blockchain in terms of global trade, where there is a huge set of you know customers that are involved and partners that are involved. Okay. And there are also a lot of other aspects when it comes to their so solutions around blockchain, like universal payments and also trade finance and all this. So blockchain is not just limited to supply chain, it also has its wings across different businesses. Okay. And this is only with IBM, uh, you know and if you imagine what are all the solutions offered by other organizations like Microsoft, Amazon, so you can imagine the opportunity that is there. So this is the IBM Food Trust journey. You can see IBM Food Trust project, as I told you, this is a blockchain solution approach towards food industry. Okay. And Walmart being a customer of IBM, they also need the suppliers of Walmart to be part of the solution. For example, if you are going to adopt, if you are going to be a Walmart, imagine, and you have a lot of suppliers, you also need your suppliers to be part of your blockchain network. Only then that will become a reality, because they have to share their information, and that information comes to your repository, and that gets shared with your customers. So it is important that the participants are actually the stakeholders of the customer. In this case, the customer is Walmart, and the stakeholders of Walmart are also part of the blockchain network. So all of them have to be part of this. So the journey started in 2016 when they had the issue of actually tracing one infected set of food products that they had in the store, and they did not know from where the food has come from. That particular shipment has come from. It took them weeks, and that was the issue, and they thought of solving this problem, and that was the trigger for them to come up with a blockchain approach. And then by 2000, mid of 2017, they already had partnered with their key suppliers like Nestle, Dole, and Unilever, and other uh, suppliers. And by mid of 2018, it is already operational now. Now they will be able to trace from where each and every product has come with all the information that is available. Okay. Now the example of the organic oranges I have told, and now I will be showing you really how the 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 data is getting transferred to blocks. Okay, imagine the case of potatoes. Let's go to the potatoes case. And when the potatoes are getting picked from the farm, the farmer as a supplier of the departmental store, farmer is a supplier of the departmental store. Okay, because he supplies his potatoes to the departmental store, so he has an app in his phone, and that phone has a GPS connectivity, so that actually validates that he is actually in this location when the potatoes are being transferred to the transporter. And not just that, the weight of the potatoes are also being picked up from the weighing scale machine that is in his farm, that measures the weight of the potato. The transporter also has his own app that is picking up the information from the IoT device, and also approves that he is receiving the potatoes from the farm where he is supposed to receive. And all this information, every bit, gets stored in blocks. All right, so what happens is, the person who is in the store, maybe the person who is managing the stock, comes to know what is happening at each stage. So there are no phone calls, there are no updates or emails that are being expected from different people, but everything is being told automated, in an automated way. And the most important part is, none of the information can be tampered. People cannot put the information they want to put, and make people believe that this is what it is. At every stage, the information is stored in blocks, which means it cannot be changed. Any attempt to change the information in their device will be alerted because of the hashing function, and it will be informed to the right person who is part of the blockchain network. Now, who is going to decide who will get the reports? Because in an environment of what we discussed before, like a farmer to the store, okay, in this situation, we cannot say that, okay, every person should know all the information about what is happening in the business. It need not be the case, because information should be shared in an appropriate manner and to the relevant people. And if all the information is being shared, then it doesn't make business sense, and it also weakens the business process. So the information that is being shared should be relevant, and it should also be shared with relevant people. So the rights and the permissions all, and also the and on what conditions the transaction is approved. For example, the potatoes that is being shared by the farmer to the transporter should be approved only on the condition of those potatoes weighing exactly so much of kgs, and also it is being from that particular location. Otherwise, the transaction should not be approved. So these conditions are all defined by smart contracts. So these are all computer programs, which is what the core of any blockchain solution is. For example, if you're going to go to the market and say, I'm going to help you with a blockchain solution, your smart contract will decide whether your blockchain solution is great or not. So smart contracts are all computer programs, and that decides how good the blockchain solution is. That is the business logic. For example, on what conditions, let's say a purchase order has to be approved and the payment has to be cleared. So these kind of things are defined using smart contracts, and there are different places in a blockchain network. Places are not physical places, those are all entities in the blockchain network. The way you may say in an organization we have departments, in the same way in the blockchain we also have something called as peers and orders and all that. So you place those conditions and instructions in those places called peers, so that the processes are actually controlled. The transaction from one stage to the other stage happens based on those conditions being satisfied. So these conditions are being defined by a system called smart contracts. These are all computer programs. This is the core of blockchain. Now, to put smart contracts in a detailed fashion, I would like to show this example. Between party 1 and party 2, if there has to be a transaction, there has to be certain conditions met. Is that right? So a smart contract will be enabled in that particular situation, where the smart contract will decide if this conditions has been met. For example, as I told you, if the farmer has actually delivered those right amount of potatoes to the transporter, and if the transporter is the right transporter who is supposed to receive the potatoes from the farmer. So when these two conditions are met, the trigger will be given to both the parties, who is the transporter and the farmer, and also the purchase manager who's in the departmental store, that yes, the potatoes has been delivered to the transporter, so that he gets an alert. So this job of ensuring the transaction is valid is done by a smart contract, and every transaction is getting stored in a blockchain, and this is what makes blockchain successful. So anything that happens in the future, okay, where you have to go and trace the issue that happened with a particular supply of a food product and take corrective actions, we always have data. We always have data at the minute level. So this is what makes blockchain so reliable in terms of going back to the origins of a problem and tracing its origin and taking corrective action. Yeah. Now this is the screen. Actually, you can if you are the owner of the store, you will be seeing this. For example, if you look at the left side, you will find the product identification number, so or the product label in the middle and the purchase order in the right. So if you put either of the information, any information here, you will be able to get the information about the product. So this is what, and even if the product is in the transit stage, you will be able to get at what stage the product is, and this data will remain forever. And all this is are not the human intervention is very less here, and the best aspect of blockchain is that because of the Internet of Things capabilities that we have these days, smart devices that we have these days, the devices instruct the blockchain network with all the information that is required, rather than a human going there and entering the information. Yeah. So a peer, as I told you, it contains a smart contract and a copy of a ledger. For example, if you are a finance person of that departmental store, where you are supposed to pay the farmer on sending set of vegetables to the transporter, then you will have a copy of ledger. Ledger means the history of transactions that have happened, and you will have your relevant copy. You will not have the entire copy, but you will have whatever relevant information that you are supposed to have. So which means that particular organization called finance or a department called finance is a peer in a blockchain network. So it has a smart contract. On certain conditions, the payment gets cleared automatically. So there is no requirement for any signatures or any such human verifications where somebody has to look through and then clear the payment. Once these conditions are met, the payment is already done. However, a node, which is a terminology in blockchain, does not have a smart contract. So node, you may say, the sensors that are in the air conditioning or any other device like a weighing scale machine, those do not have smart. It simply sends information, that's all. Okay, to the smart contract, for the smart contract to decide if everything is fine, so that we can go ahead. So this is what it is. And now, as we are discussing more and more about the case of a business blockchain, we must also understand one thing very importantly, that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies are one application of blockchain. It is not blockchain entirely, okay? Which means blockchain has a lot of potential much beyond Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There is usually a misleading thought among people that blockchain means Bitcoin. No. Internet has its own application. Internet has varied application. You can send emails, uh, cloud computing, you can do many things. You can actually store data. Like this, blockchain also has an application called cryptocurrency, which is something not we are discussing now. And what we are discussing here is purely for business. So please do not think that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are synonymous with blockchain. They use the blockchain approach, and that is all. Okay. And coming to Honeywell Aerospace, now you will all be knowing that aerospace business is highly sensitive. Okay, sensitive because it matters a lot when it comes to safety, and the safety of aerospace parts are of high importance, and any decision that is made around purchasing an aerospace part involves a lot of thinking. A lot of information is required when it comes to buying an aerospace part, and aerospace parts are very expensive as well. Now Honeywell has a business of used aerospace parts, where they actually have their own uh, marketplace where people can go and buy aerospace parts, and they had an issue. Now the the businesses that are actually buying aerospace parts from Honeywell, they are finding it very hard to make a decision to buy because of lack of information. Okay, or or from Honeywell side, they have to appoint somebody to go and do a lot of presentations, and uh, there is a lot of human intervention that is involved to go and convince the customer that yes, uh, this is the uh, this is the right part for you, and you will have a lot of advantage out of this. But using blockchain, what happened is that a lot of things, you know uh, a lot of things got automated, where if the person who is looking for an aerospace part wants information, every information that he wants is available there. So this is how it is. So if you look at the journey of an aerospace used aircraft part buying, this is how it happens. First, an aircraft gets dismantled. Okay, right from that point, everything gets recorded, which means Honeywell Aerospace's suppliers who are part of their blockchain system, they're also part of you know uh, the application. So they record everything that happens, and all that gets recorded and gets updated in real time for whoever is looking to buy that part. On the right side, if you see the control and display unit replacement, this costs like $140,000. This is a very expensive part, and while the investment is on one side, the safety is also on the other side, the technical decision. So when it's come to technical decision, a lot of information is required. The history of information is important. So all this has to be automated. Okay, and with blockchain, right from the basic dismantling event of that aircraft up until the equipment is being repaired and being put in the store, everything is recorded. So the decision making aspect of the customer has improved a lot with a blockchain solution, and all this data cannot be changed. Okay, because here it is not a data entry, it is all based on the IoT capability that we have now, that uses a blockchain approach. Now let's look at the Walmart case in detail. Now when it comes to Walmart case, the 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 spectrum of the products that they have covered is from produces, in the sense the vegetables or fruits, the meat and poultry, dairy, and multi-ingredient products, which also includes baby foods. If you look at any supermarket or a departmental store, the majority of the supplies will be around this, and these are all of daily utility types and of high importance nature, because anything goes wrong in this four categories of supplies, it means that the customer loyalty is lost. So uh, when it comes to Walmart case, where they have included blockchain, they have currently covered all these four sections of their products, and it is now in production, in the sense that the technology is helping customers to know the history of any product that they buy in each of the space. So you can imagine before and after. Okay, before blockchain, it took 7 days for them to know from where a piece of mango has come from, and now it takes only 2.2 seconds for them to know from where those mangoes have come from. So in case of any infection that could happen, that which is something not under our control, the traceability of the source of that particular infected food can be done in within seconds, and the corrective actions can be taken. So this is the main advantage of having a blockchain approach here. And how this traceability happens is because every bit of information is stored, and the tampering cannot be done because of the hashing function, the immutability aspect that is there. Okay, now this was the journey of Walmart when it comes to adopting this. Now it started with proof of concept, where they actually have come up with some experimentation of seeing if the food products can be tracked, from where it has come, from what is the the history of that. This is something we call as provenance. Okay, provenance means the ability to go back and trace the history of that. Immutability means the strength of the data in terms of not accepting any changes. So that's immutability. Okay, now the provenance aspect was checked in 2016. By 2017 their suppliers along with IBM like Nestle, Unilever have joined their project called Food Trust, and they decided that they also want to share information about their project. Now by 2018 September, they already had 25 types of products. 25 products means each product has its own brands. All this have become part of the blockchain network, and the customers will be able to see the origins of projects of each product they buy, and also they will be able to know the information about the product all beyond what is being mentioned in the packaging labels. Now, to give you a quick summary again, a block contains one or more transactions. I think that's you will be able to relate to what we discussed in the cricket example. Every ball has an information set of information that is being recorded, and it has to be recorded because if we have to reason out the final outcome of the match, we have to go back to each and every ball and say this is what happened, hence this is the result of the match. The same analogy we have to apply to businesses as well. This is what happened in each and every transaction, hence this is what happened. So this also gives the aspect of traceability. If something goes wrong in the business, we will be able to go back and trace back. Now this tracing back activity happens because of the ledger approach. Okay, in a ledger we have the transactions that are happening, whether it is big or small, everything gets recorded, and along with that, if that recording of every transaction is distributed, it becomes even more powerful, because if one source is being depended on knowing what is the actual scenario, then the scenario is weak. But if it is being distributed across, then the dependency on one particular source is reduced, and these days with a lot of security issues, data security issues, it is better to have a distributed approach where we have multiple copies of this information that is available with different people. Okay, so that way blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. Okay, and this is not Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, again let me repeat you, and this has this great aspect of immutability where the data cannot be tampered. Even if it is attempted to tamper, the trigger can be alerted using the smart contract. The smart contract does different things, where it sets conditions for a transaction to be a valid transaction or an invalid transaction. Okay, and this smart contract sits, or it resides in an entity called a peer. A peer is an entity in a blockchain where a peer has a responsibility to play. A peer is not a person, it is actually an entity in a blockchain where it has set of smart contracts. For example, if you have to if I have to say an example of peer, you can say the finance department. On certain conditions, if the payment has to be made, then if it has to be done, then it is done from the peer called finance peer, and the conditions and the logic for approving the payment is done by a smart contract, and that is a programming code. Okay, a node is nothing beyond a device that sends information to the smart contract. Okay, and we are discussing here about a permissioned blockchain where as an organization we adopt a blockchain solution and we set conditions on who should be part of this and who should be not. Okay, so this is a permission blockchain, not a public blockchain like Bitcoin. Provenance is about the ability to go back and trace, reason out the origins of a particular state of the system. So this is what the biggest advantage of blockchain in addition to immutability. All right, now we have to check why we have to go for a blockchain. You always can have a question like, okay, can all this be done? Now uh, the investment on technology is you know, is sometimes huge and sometimes not that huge, but it is always an investment, and the justification for investing the money on technology should always go with an answer. Okay, now if there is a question from the customer side that should I invest so much money on this, or can I just, you know, upgrade few things in my existing technology? Should I really go for a blockchain solution? Now the justification can be done only when we know clearly that this situation demands a blockchain approach. When there is a situation, number one, when there are multi parties involving in the scenario of the business where they share data, okay, there is a number one condition where you can strongly say that yes, we have to go for a blockchain approach. And number two, multi parties updating data. What we discussed so far in the case of a departmental store scenario of a scenario, you know, where there is a farmer, there is a transporter, where there is a quality inspector, many people who are involved in actually carrying the product to the customer in the end. Okay, this is a scenario where multi parties are involved and there is a requirement for verification, where if the verification has to be done by a human, okay, and intermediaries are complexity. Intermediaries in the sense the humans who are involved in this, where there could be biases, where there could be preferences given to few people. So if all this has to be avoided, and if the business transactions has to happen as per the process 100%, then blockchain is the right approach. Interactions are time sensitive. When we cannot take decisions late, when it has to be taken quickly, which could lead to customer delight, because these days, as much as we are, even our customers are, you know, looking for quick service, quality service at the right cost. So the transactions has to be that much faster, and if transactions has to be that much faster, it should also be of right quality. So this is the advantage of blockchain. And the transactions interact. One transaction has a dependency to another transaction. So in these scenarios, when these 6 scenarios are met, then that business scenario quietly fits for a blockchain solution approach. So this is from PricewaterhouseCoopers. And when you think of a blockchain, you will be always be surprised why so much of data is being shared. Okay, when we think of always only dashboards, reports, and you know, quick snapshots of things that are happening, you might be always be surprised about why every bit of information has to be shared. When you think from a business point of view, there could be a lot of load of data. Okay, however, when we have to fix problems, then we always go back to the history of data. And if the history of data has to be found and obtained, then the history should also be in a way where the information shared is actually not weakly stored, not weakly stored in the sense where it is not being easily tampered. So you should be able to trace the data easily. At the same time, the data that is being stored in the past should also be in a manner that it should not be tampered. Any attempt to tamper the data should be easily being told to the world in the sense people who are involved there. So when this is the case, and if you imagine yourself as a customer who is buying a product, and you know the history of the product, when it has come from and all that, in addition to that, with so much of smart devices that are there that can actually feed information to the smart contract application, then imagine the things that we can do from both angles. One angle is the data that is being stored in blockchain and the analytics we can do, the information that we can take and analyze, rather than going to the customer again and asking for some information. We can now actually have all the information that is there, big or small, and make analytics out of that, number one. And number two, the customer is actually empowered with so much of information that he believes that he deserves to know for the money that customer has paid. In the case of Honeywell Aerospace, we have seen that $140,000 is one the cost of one piece of one unit of a spare, used spare. There are spares that are even much expensive. However, the customer deserves to know what is the background of this particular spare that he is buying, so that information is the main aspect that customers will be looking for, so that the decision making of the customer becomes much faster. Now, if you look at the technology part of it, how blockchain solutions are getting created, you will be finding these five players in the market, who are providing the platform for creating a blockchain solution. Now, coming to Ethereum, Ethereum has its own platform for developing blockchain solution, and they have a programming language called Solidity. And Solidity is a language, this is again a high level language, much like Python or Java, which you will be able to learn quickly. And also you have Hyperledger. Hyperledger is widely used when it comes to enterprise blockchain solutions. The examples that we have seen in case of Honeywell or in case of Walmart, it has always been through Hyperledger, and Hyperledger has its own set of bouquet of things to help developers to create blockchain solutions. R3 Carda is another, Ripple, Quorum. And to start with, I would suggest you can go to Hyperledger Fabric, and it will be a great start if you have a Linux machine with you, and even if you have a personal computer like a laptop or a desktop, doesn't matter, have a Linux machine with you, and you will have to install a set of things which will require you to start your first blockchain network. and GUVI has a course that will be launched very shortly on how to develop a blockchain network. However, it is important for you to learn two things. Number one, please learn how to be how to work in a Linux environment, and number two, any programming language, doesn't matter whether it is Python or Java, learn it in a very conceptual level, in the sense how each of your action in that programming language affects the memory, in the sense the RAM, and also the processing speed. Because you might be having the luxury now of experimenting things with your personal computer, which might be having a good processor and a good memory, but when it comes to creating product, the product might be working in a situation where the memory or the processing speed may not be that much. So creating solution means creating solution in an optimized way. So even in blockchain case, there will be a lot of programming that will be involved. Okay, and before that, you should be having a good hold of programming, and for that you should be learning programming from this point of view. Learn from the processing speed point of view, and also from how much this is occupying the memory point of view. So if you are going to look at how do you assign variables or anything in your or the number of lines of code in your programs, you should ensure that this is actually done in an optimized way, where this does not demand too much of memory or the processing speed of the PC. Okay, so this is something I would insist you. At the same time, when you have a knowledge of Linux, this gives you that advantage to deploy your solutions in any environment for that matter, because of the containerized approach we have these days, where the solutions are actually packaged and delivered to the the client environment, and used in the client, and mostly the client environment is a Linux environment. So you should be comfortable with Linux. Okay, now in the course that is being launched by GUVI, you will be coming to know how to set up things in your computer for developing a blockchain network. That doesn't matter, or I can even send a set of things that you can try out. But the important aspect is to be aware of a Linux environment, and also learn programming with the processing speed and also the memory performance in mind. Okay, now this is how, when it comes to cloud platform, this is how the customers have leveraged. For example, AWS have their own set of these are all the dominant cloud uh, players in the world as of now. And if you look at the percentage of people who have adopted to the blockchain paradigm, the percentage of customers, this is how it is. 96.3% of Amazon Web Services enterprise customers have adopted to blockchain approach, and they've started experimenting that. So this is how the paradigm is, and I will not suggest initially to go to cloud. You can experiment with your own PCs. However, you should understand that the adoption towards blockchain is high. Now let me quickly go through the basics again. Now a block, to start with, yeah, a block has set of data, and the data gets uh, and the data comes from sensors, it comes from the apps, it comes from different devices. It gets stored, and the data is protected through a hash function, because each and every block has its own address called a hash, and it is also referred to the previous block. So now if you see, the hash function is like a 64 digit decimal hexadecimal number, and this hashing function is done through a SHA-256 algorithm. And this hashing function is critical because any small bit of change in data in a block will affect the entire hash. You may try this in your computer itself. You try SHA-256 algorithm as a search in Google, and you will be able to get one window, some options where you try your name with all the letters as small letters, and then check again, and you will be able to see one hash function that is getting generated. And then you try your name with first letter alone as a capital letter. See the huge change in the hash function. You will be able to find a huge change. So this is what it happens when this is getting chained as like this. So imagine if I am going to change the data in the first block, the hash function of that block gets changed, which means the link with the next block also gets disconnected. Okay, so the data tampering, changing the data, doesn't happen, number one. And number two is the traceability of data is also that much easy, because every bit of transaction is stored in a blockchain, and the respective owners of the functions with the permissions will be able to see what is the scenario at the right time in real time. Because of uh, uh, the uh, automated aspect of blockchain, the decision making becomes so fast for people to make a decision the out of the situation, and see what corrective action they can take. Okay, so distributed ledger technology is what it is, and because of the nature of block in this distributed ledger technology, it is called blockchain. So blockchain is a technology that uses distributed ledger approach. Okay, where as you have seen, a ledger contains every single transaction that has happened along with the final state of the transaction. So the reasoning out of the final state to its origin can be done only when that all the transactions are being stored and registered. So this is the advantage of a blockchain approach. All right. Now a quick recap with all the concepts that are there. For you to have a look. A block contains one or more transactions with a hash for itself and the hash of previous block. Hash function converts data of arbitrary length in the sense of any length, to a fixed length. This process is referred to as cryptographic hashing. SHA-256 algorithm is used in blockchain for hashing. You may try this in Google. You will be able to find a hash function for your name itself, and you can try to change the first letter of the name to a capital letter and see the change that happens. Okay, so the same thing will happen for the data in a block as well. Any small change will change the hash of that particular block, which means the next block link will get delinked and the right person will get information about that. A blockchain is a distributed ledger that stores information about transactions in a distributed manner in the form of a block. Distributed ledger technology. Data on the blockchain is replicated, shared and synchronized. Synchronized means the change that is happening in the data is getting informed the same time the change happens. The way we watch the cricket match and we also get updated the same time the ball is being bowled and the run is scored, that is synchronized approach. The same way a blockchain approach is also the same approach. The data is replicated, shared among parties and also synchronized. Immutability. This means the data once entered on the blockchain, it cannot be deleted. It cannot be deleted, and edits can be made only by appending, you may also call it as adding new or updated information. With blockchain, you have permanent record or audit trail of all data that is entered. You only not see the new data, but you also see how the data changed over time, who changed the data, why it was changed, all this reasons. Smart contracts are computer programs that are stored on a blockchain and automatically execute when predetermined terms and conditions are met. So when a smart contract is written by people like us, like developers, that execute this smart contract when these conditions are met. As I said, if the smart contract is told like, if the farmer delivers the potato from this GPS location with this amount of kgs, and if this transporter ID is received by the farmer's application, then execute smart contract, then the smart contract gets executed. So where the smart contract resides is, it resides in a place called peer. A peer is not just a human, it is again an entity in blockchain network. Okay, and this gets initiated when the conditions are met. Provenance is the origin of the information, where the involved parties or the stakeholders are able to go and reason out or find why the state of or the current state has reached this level and going back to its origins. All right. Now, important aspect again is, if we have to decide if the blockchain approach is right or the situation is not suitable for blockchain, how do we decide? Is number one, if multiple parties are involved in sharing the data and multiple parties are involved in updating data, and if there is requirement for verification, and if there are intermediaries who are adding more complexities, in the sense if there is any human intervention that is involved, in the entire business transaction, then there will be an issue of uh, you know where you know there is the dependency of a human decision. But in this case there is less of human decision, because the smart contract receives information from all the information like the GPS or the sensors that are there, and it makes a decision, and the decisions are made quick, and the transactions interact, where the dependency of one transaction is very high. In these situations, blockchain is a great approach, and these are all the platforms that are available as of now. And as I told you, having a good hold of Linux and also any programming language for that matter will be always helpful to you for you to start your journey with creating a blockchain solution. All right, so I think you will be having a quiz maybe sometime later, so I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.